again, I want to welcome everyone to our SolarWinds MSP Tech Series. The feature focus today is Managed Antivirus. So today, my name is David Ionetta. I'm a sales engineer for SolarWinds MSP, and I'm joined by Ernest Bird. Some of you may already know him from other Tech Walks and, of course, the Tech Series as well. He's going to be doing our demo today. And in the background, Todd Hoagland is going to be doing our live chat. So go ahead and fire your questions away at Todd. The guy's got like 12 fingers. He can type extremely fast. He'll be answering all those questions as we go through this webinar today. So a couple of things, a little housekeeping before we begin. Will we be recording? Yes, absolutely. We'll be recording this and it will be posted later on. How about Q&A? Again, Todd will be handling the Q&A ongoing. At the end, we're going to take some live answers to your live questions as time allows, and any long answers, something that's going to take a little bit more going into or getting into, we'll address that with a follow-up email or tech walk if necessary. So all you need to do is just submit your questions and comments throughout the webinar right into the little chat window there, and again, you will hear back from Todd right away. So what are we talking about today? What is today's agenda? We are looking at Managed Antivirus. Managed Antivirus. So first we're going to talk about why. Why use Managed Antivirus at all? Then of course looking into the side of it. And then we'll talk about deployment and usage. How do we actually use the product and interact with it? And of course the all-important reporting aspect of a Managed Antivirus program. Let's talk a little bit about that. Why use the Managed Antivirus? Well, first of all, getting everybody under one umbrella is so important. That's probably the biggest conveniences of a managed AV solution. Instead of managing a lot of different antiviruses, you'll be managing just one. You're able to create your policies and so forth. So one of the best things about using the RM Managed AV would be using and taking advantage of that Bitdefender engine. It's one of the best engines on the market. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go ahead out there, do your research, and you'll see, especially the heuristic approach to antivirus detection is superior, and that's the way you're going to get your 0-day, things of that nature. Of course, we're using the definition files as well, but we're also getting into that heuristic approach, just analyzing software, looking for things that are suspicious and shutting it down until you've given it the green light or you've removed it. And of course, another thing about it, consistent configuration. So you set up a few policies, you get them going. As you're onboarding your customers, that gets a lot easier because you have a consistent configuration set. And then of course you can make modifications to those configurations and easily distribute them, and we're going to talk about that. And then again, that leads to that easy onboarding. So somebody comes in and they say, yes, we do want to have your Managed Antivirus product. Well, now you got to get them onboarded. You got to uninstall the AV. That's already on there. That'll happen automatically, or we'll get into that. Also looking at simply getting their policies set up. Well, a lot of times you can do like for like. A lot of times it's very easy. Maybe when I was in MSP, I've been in IT for 20 years. I was in MSP for 7. You end up with a lot of accountant firms or a lot of lawyer firms kind of come into your real estate. They tend to have a lot of the same exclusions. So you can start setting these things up one time using those same policies. That's not something you can do if the Managed Antivirus is not in your console. If it's on their server, then you got to go in, you got to configure, you got to recreate the wheel every single time. When you're using a Managed AV in the RM console, you set up a few policies, you make some slight modifications as you go, but getting that onboarding is easier and easier and faster and faster. And of course, the other thing that's important about it, Managed AV, is being able to stay very, very secure that it's current and that it's running. Those are the most important things of managing an AV product, because what good is it if it's current, if it's not running, if it's been shut down for something? We all know a virus. That's one of the things it'll try to do. Shut off the AV. You need to know when that happens. And is it current? Is the engine current? These things sometimes change by the hour. How are you going to keep track of that unless you're using a Managed Antivirus solution? Answer is you can't, and we're going to see how you're able to actually do that here. So that's what we're going to talk about first, is being able to configure and set up the policies for your Managed Antivirus product. Again, You can go in out of the box. We're already going to give you 3 different policies, one for the desktop, one for the laptop, one for the servers. But go into those. Use them as your template to start creating your own policies. So you have a lot of things already set up, already configured, and ready to go. But pay attention to things like the scan times and so forth. Those are the things that are really going to get customized for different clients, and you can create all these different policies based on things like that. Very easy to set up, save, and apply, as you can see. And it's easier, even easier to deploy. Once you get your policies in place, it's as simple as clicking on your settings, going in and turning on the antivirus for a particular client site. Very simple. The agent, as you know, is going to do all the work for you. It's going to install the antivirus. It's going to communicate to the dashboard on behalf of the antivirus. It's going to make sure that everything is running as it should. And if you chose to run anything like maybe pausing it and things like that, the agent is going to do all that interaction for you. So especially if you already have the customer in the dashboard with agents installed, it's as simple as just turning it on. And of course, it's easy to use. You can get a glance, you can get a bird's eye view of an individual machine. Take a look at all the different settings, get an idea of the threat level on a particular machine, or maybe just look at the scans or check on the quarantine. Or any time, simply right-click and interact with the individual machine. You can run your scans, your deep scans, you can pause the AV, and so forth. Things of that nature. Very, very easy to do when you're setting up. But again, this is going to allow you the ability to manage your antivirus from a high level, or maybe from a client level, or maybe from a client site level, or maybe even taking it down to an individual machine level. Everything you can do in a regular AV, you're able to do here. The benefit of it is it's all in one place. The benefit of it is that when you set up those alerts, you set it up one time. You get the alerts sent to you, and that's going to be just a great way of streamlining, because you're going to find as you get going, as you get your policies put in place, as you get all of these things all set up nice and tight, then what ends up happening is you onboard a new client, and it just takes a matter of minutes. So you go from doing your homework up ahead of time, refining the policies the way that you want to use them, deploy it, turn it on, and everything pretty much runs for you in the background. And as we talked about before in other webinars, we do like to look at our security from a multi-level scenario, basically, looking at setting up first and foremost, look into web protection, keep people from going to the websites they shouldn't be going to begin with. That's a great way of avoiding these virus issues. Make sure the machines are patched. If you're not using patching, look into it, get into it, turn it on, experiment with it, get a tech walk. We'd love to talk to you about it. But make sure that the machines are patched, because really your antivirus at that point, if all of your security policies are in place, it's the last resort. It means something is there. And other than just keeping your customers compliant, because they have to have it on and running, as you know, with the reports making sure they're staying updated, you also have to make sure that that there's something in place should a virus get in. You have a way of dealing with it and remediating that issue. So that's what we're all here to talk about today. We'll get ready now to go right into a live demo with our very own Ernest Bird. Extremely knowledgeable guy. I know that a lot of you have talked to him in the past, so you know that. And he's going to go ahead and show us exactly how we can do the things we described here. So take it away. Thank you, Ernest.
Thank you, David. I hope everyone's doing well today. And I will say, David, you really make it seem pretty easy. Just for the audience, it is. It's very easy to go ahead and deploy this solution out for your customers. Now, some of you may be on board. You have experienced Managed Antivirus under the different engine that we had used in the past, which was the Viper technology, and some may be just coming new to utilize the Managed Antivirus using the Bitdefender technology. So this information is going to approach both audiences. One of the things I want to point out is for moving from the current engine set, Viper, to the Bitdefender, always recommend doing your agent auto update. From here, under the agent auto update settings, you're able to take advantage of the most current general announce agent. And then for your systems, all you will need to do is go under the settings, manage antivirus, settings, and just like any of our other features, you're going to see under the settings node a grandfather, father, son structuring, where you'll be able to quickly change the engine type from the Viper engine to the Bitdefender, utilizing the new Bitdefender policies that you've created. For someone that's currently new to our solution, then they're looking to take on the Managed Antivirus. Bitdefender is going to be the engine offering and the list, as that is one of the top in the IT spaces, the top antivirus solution out there. There's many reasons for that, and we'll get into that as we look through the policies, the capabilities, but we encourage all of our customers who are using the Managed Antivirus to be using that technology. So kind of back to what David was talking about, I want to first speak of why you want to use the Managed Antivirus. As David mentioned, standardizing. That is the biggest thing. Where you are, as a provider, if you're using several different antivirus solutions, you're looking at more overhead yourself. You're spending more time that you cannot charge for to train your technicians to be able to support those different products. They're going to have different capability sets. You as a provider, you are responsible at the end of the day when your customers have some sort of infection, or that's how they look at it. They're going to come to you and say, you're handling my IT, how did this get through? So us being your source for one of the best tool sets in the remote management space, we're suggesting you use the Managed Antivirus, and that is just because you have the capabilities that are delivered in the Bitdefender delivery. And with that, you're understanding that you're going to be providing an enterprise-grade antivirus solution. You're going to have better protection, not just what a traditional antivirus would offer, but you're having other forms that complement a antivirus detection. It's more covering the other parts of malware, and more specifically, if you look into malware, there's categories out there such as ransomware or pups or other sorts of pop-ups that do not sit under the virus or Trojan space. So looking into the policy real fast, let's talk about what I'm speaking of in terms of the malware category space and look at how the Bitdefender solution can approach that. If you go into the settings, Manage Antivirus and Protection Policy, you'll see the Bitdefender policies are indicated with a shield icon, where the Viper, if you have that previously in place, would be with the little bug icon here. For new dashboards, you would see just the Bitdefender icon here with that shield. And for the migrating customers, you can simply take your old policies, click Migrate, and that will allow you to snapshot what's in the Viper delivery and carry it into a new Bitdefender policy. This is to bring over things like exclusions, scan times, anything that was capable with the Viper delivery. For someone starting new with a solution, you may use our suggested base templates and tailor those. You may build off of those. What you want to think of is when you're building these policies, how many environmental variants am I dealing with? If you're managing all your customers in the same fashion, maybe you're managing just one given vertical, you may just have a policy for your entire customer base. Whereas you may have, as a provider, different verticals. Maybe you have law, maybe you have insurance, maybe you have real estate, and maybe you create a policy for each of those. Another approach is you can make an organization-specific policy. Maybe for each of your different clients, you have a policy aligned directly with them. From there, you can have organizational-specific exclusions, appropriate scan intervals for the organization. You want to weigh out those things before you start building the policy. The thing that you want to consider when you're building these out is, how do I make this as simple as possible? And being that the solution is so simple, it's an easy way to manage your policies as well. We have added the usage column in here to demonstrate how many of your systems are using a given policy when you choose to either modify a policy. That way you know how widespread that's going to be when it takes effect. Also, you can see if that is something, a global type policy that you want to build off of if you're making an exclusion delivery. Perhaps you have an upper executive that needs to have a unique exclusion in place. Then what you can do is you can create a policy unique for that upper executive, and you can copy it from your base template. That allows you to more easily manage that given system with the appropriate environmental variables. So going in, configuration, let's take a look at one of our base policies, and we'll just kind of talk top down. This is what you want to get into before you start rolling out the antivirus to the systems. I will mention that to deliver the Managed Antivirus to the systems, it does require having an advanced monitoring agent delivered. There are a few ways of delivering the advanced monitoring agent. We have silent installers. You can group policy install, push that out in a structured environment. You can use a remote worker installer, which is a silent EXE, or under the Networks tab, which is our Active Discovery feature set, you can push agents out to both your Windows and to your Mac systems. Starting with the policy, looking top down, first you'll define the policy name. This is something that you want to be strategically named based on perhaps its intention. You want to make it where it's understandable just by looking at the name, who it should be assigned to. When you have another tech that's coming in here, maybe you've onboarded a new customer and you want to see which policy you're going to use, having an appropriate policy name is going to make that much easier for that onboarding process. End-user interaction. What this allows for is showing at the device level if updates are occurring for the system, and also if there's anything found, perhaps scans and other details. So I do have connection to one of my test machines where I have the Managed Antivirus delivered, the Bitdefender engine. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up while we're in session, and I'm going to quickly show you what that looks like. So here I do have it set up for the end user options to be delivered. You'll see first a system tray. If I right click and go to About, what you'll find is there's options to deliver text-based branding. You can put your contact information in here. This is going to be set up in the policy. So jumping back over to the dashboard, under the installation settings, you can set up your company information, contact details. This is your solution, so keep that in mind. At the end of the day, you want them to be communicating with you if they have any kind of questions, if any changes need to be made. So that would be a great place to put your branding. In addition to that, by having at the local level the end user icon, you would be able to have the end user available to go in, create their own scans, set up the viewing here of update intervals. So if you want to make sure before any scans are done that these are on the latest, you can view here that the latest heuristic or signature files have been delivered. If you want to go in and run a custom scan as an end user, you have the ability to do so. So as a Managed Antivirus, it's not just solely controlled from the dashboard. You give some options to the end user. If you feel that they're more technically savvy perhaps, or just want to have that feel of an antivirus as you would get through general shelfware, you have the ability to provide this localized option set, as well as have the dashboard management where you can go in and use your best scanning approach, setting general scan times based on what you would be recommending to your customers, and ensure that those are handled as intended in a more automatic fashion. So back over to the dashboard, we're going to take a look at some other policy options. You'll be able to set up automatic clearing of the quarantine. Think of the quarantine as a recycle bin or a hold repository on the device. If something is really not looking safe for the environment and it is not really deemed to be a huge threat, maybe it's more of a warning versus a critical insecurity level, that's where the quarantine comes into play. It may be for your scrutiny as a provider to go in and say, hey, I want to go ahead and have this released. Maybe this is a known application. It just doesn't function as a unique or as your standard application line. This is something more unique. We understand that it may cause unwanted environmental behaviors if it were to be used the wrong way. Maybe it's your own tool set even. From here, this quarantine keeps it from being totally removed from the resource, but it allows you to go in and then manage it. You can have it where it's automatically removed after a certain time period, and this kind of information can be reported on as well. This helps show the value behind the Managed Antivirus, where you have greater visibility to the solution versus if you were using a standalone piece of shelfware. Another thing I want to just throw in there back to the why you're using the Managed Antivirus, keep in mind with this solution, you have the ability to provide your own markup or price model, you're delivering this as ultimately your security layer. So if you want to come in and do a line item and more or less have a SaaS type delivery, Managed Antivirus, you can do that. You can model it into a fraction of your managed service solution under your security space, as you've done the research around the solution, and we really kind of backed you by doing that research as well to bring in that full integration with the Bitdefender teams and make sure that we are well nested in this platform. Moving top down, updating. You can have the updates occur for the signature files every X amount of hours. One of the adds to this, keep in mind, is if you have a server agent in your given site, you have the ability to set a site concentrator. I'll jump out of this real fast and we'll come back. The site concentrator gives you the ability, when you double click a site, to have a central feature update repository available to serve not only your patch management updates, but your Managed Antivirus updates. So let's say you have 50 workstations and they're all on the same site doing the updates at the same interval. Instead of going to, in a redundant manner, pull down those updates and perhaps have network conflicts due to the amount of packages being retrieved, you could have the one designated system go out, retrieve that, and serve the updates over the LAN. We've really enhanced the site concentrator so you can come in here and quickly, just with a checkbox, have it manipulate your firewall to allow the LAN communication from the agents up. You can have it work in conjunction with a proxy even. Once you have this enabled and saved, all the agents know to automatically adhere to that. So when they are on the network, they're going to go out and they're going to retrieve the updates through the site concentrator. When they leave the network, maybe it's a laptop system that's out on the road, well, guess what happens? We have a failover built in there. So what it does is it goes out just as if a site concentrator was not employed, and it retrieves the updates. That is one of the highlights of using the Bitdefender technology as well. That was, over the past year, one of the enhancements around the Managed Antivirus and the site concentrator. So another reason to be using the Bitdefender solution set, that added failover ability. We have here the Managed Antivirus check behavior. This allows you to have standard communication for your devices that are perhaps going offline more often or going to sleep. You may want to consider using this, the never fail check due to agent inactivity. If it's going to sleep, the communication with the Bitdefender agent comes in its own separate channel, and that's just to give the information in the most real-time fashion. We'll look at that as we get into the checks and the monitoring in just a moment. But I want to emphasize for your laptop systems, you may want to consider changing this variable versus your systems that are on more often. You may have it fail in a more timely fashion if there's any kind of inactivity, especially if the devices are to be online most often during the workday. Here, this was in the Viper technology hard set in the delivery, whereas we make this an option within. We do recommend utilizing this. This is a failed Managed Antivirus check when threats are present in quarantine. This helps bring to your attention as a provider when there's something that needs further scrutiny, so you can give the access back to the user or go in and action on it, making sure it's out of the system, and do perhaps a proactive or a more interactive follow-up. Just, hey, we got our eyes on your network and on your machine. Everything looks good here. Things that couldn't have been seen with a standalone antivirus. Installation settings. So under this, you'll have first a checkbox to automatically remove the conflicting products. With the Viper delivery, it was found under the settings node to utilize the competitive antivirus removal tool. We now offer that in the policy just to make it easier for you to deliver this solution out. So with this checkbox, what you have is the ability to strip those other antivirus products off the system, and you can even have it where it automatically reboots if it's needed just in the first delivery. If you're using this option, I do recommend after the first delivery that you remove that, because this gives the ultimate authority to the engine. So you may deliver it, then come back in the policy, quickly uncheck it, and save it. You can set up, as I was showing a moment ago, text-based branding, putting your contact details. Before we jump away and get into scanning, I want to show you the capable solutions, the ones that can be removed with this, with that simple checkbox. I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to jump over into our help resources. Under the Support Center, you're going to see User Manual. And what I'm going to be looking at is the Bitdefender product list, what it's capable of removing. If you come into our search feature, you can quickly locate it, or we have an expansion tree where you can see specifics just for each Managed Antivirus engine type. But I'm searching more specifically for the OpSWAT utility. OpSWAT is what's used for the automatic removal. And here on the right-hand side, what you'll see is an interactive chart. What you can do is you can actually sort for just the ones capable of removal, or you can look at the ones just by vendor. You can type in here to search. If you were to show uninstall supported only, these are the ones that are capable of being removed. So notice I'm just in the A's right now in terms of vendor moving top down. This is a very extensive list of products that can be removed. So your Semantics, your McAfee's, anything that you want to have automatically removed that would provide conflict with the new driver-based delivery Bitdefender can be done with that checkbox. We're moving almost into the B's now in terms of vendor, but take a quick look at this if you have any questions, but this can save you a lot of time. I remember years ago being in the field myself, having to go into machines and manually remove the antivirus. I remember the old McAfee was the 3 reboot routine, roughly 30 minutes interactively at the system, just so I could put an antivirus on the box. You take all that burden away, and with a few clicks in this dashboard after having the agent present, you now have the centrally managed antivirus solution, Bitdefender technology. Back into the policy. Moving through, just talking a few other highlights here. We're going to look at the scanning variables. So where I was mentioning the malware protection, not just viruses or Trojans, which make up, from some research I've done in the past, about 86% of malware in general. So viruses and Trojans, they're determined based on self-mutating code at the assembly level language, meaning they're more scientific in nature. What you have through this and behavioral scanning is the ability to find those other forms of threats to the system that are really less scientific in nature. They're going to create those unwanted behaviors, but they don't necessarily have patterns. We've even been informed the known variants of CryptoWall, which was deemed ransomware, is built into the Bitdefender protection abilities. So with that, not a lot of antivirus products out there can actually do that. Now, where no antivirus product's 100% effective, we are recommending one of the strongest in the antivirus space. So definitely another highlight to the solution. You can be notified if deep scans aren't running. So why is that even important? If a deep scan is not running on the system every so often, you may not get some of the detection scan ability that you would have in your quick scans, for example. So your deep scans, more often you're going to find is more intrusive, looking at more variables, but it's going to take a little bit longer. And that's why we offer the use low priority option. We do recommend using that as well as the incremental option, just so you can have it pick up where it left off and making sure it's going into every given scan variant and trying to pull that nastiness out of that system. The scanning abilities you'll see here, the ability to protect against PUPs, PUAs, potentially unwanted applications. You can set aggressiveness levels here. That is complemented under behavioral scanning, where you can come in and have it where it's more aggressive in the sensitivity level. Sometimes I compare this to, think of something like SATs, where you have your verbal and your mathematical fractions of that test. The verbal would be kind of behavioral scanning and the other items, where you have the mathematic is the virus detection in general. Once you've set up your scan intervals as intended for your audience, what you also want to do is consider any kind of exclusions you may want to have for your application. You can go in and set known applications that you're going to be using that you feel like would conflict with this detection ability as your exclusion. After you're done with the policy setup, you would save it. The next thing, turn it on. Go to your settings, go to your Managed Antivirus, go to settings. This is where you can, at an organizational level, turn it on. Let's say you have for this given organization a unique policy. You can choose that unique policy here in the drop-down and click OK. Once that's done, Bitdefender is going to be rolling out to the system where you have a column for Managed Antivirus Bitdefender. It'll show if it's active. That gives you also, with the delivery, a few added checks. You're going to find the Managed Antivirus check. That looks at the actual engine itself. What's the engine version? Are the threat definitions up to date? Last communication cycle. When were the scans last conducted? Also, if you have any kind of outages, you'll see that in here. Outages are things when your monitors are behaving abnormal or thresholds or boundaries are crossed. And this given scenario would be if Managed Antivirus is not behaving as expected. Maybe there's something on the given system that's prohibiting the scan to run as intended. It could be the end user's powering it down, not following with the intended power management schematics you've set up. And from there, maybe you just want to have a discussion. Hey, we need to have these on, and it's that time to combine the deep scans we have set up for your system. You also have your update check. This allows you to see in a timely fashion, are those updates in place? Do I have the latest definitions? Do I have the knowledge of the latest known variants out there? Because if you're using signature files that are 2 weeks old and you have some sort of zero-day threat you're up against, chances are that threat's going to make it through. So it's always important to have that communication with the dashboard and also the communication with the update servers to retrieve the update information. That way it can feed into you that it's A-OK, it's doing well, and it can retrieve at the device level and do its localized scan because the policy you set up is held at the device level. So it's going to run those scans if it's powered on, no matter what. You just want to make sure it has the internet connectivity, retrieving those updates and running the routine scans so you can see everything in the dashboard as well. Everything's licensed when you turn it on to be utilized through this solution, so you don't have to consider dealing with other vendors. We have our support teams trained for communicating in a very knowledgeable fashion for the delivery. Sales engineers, we understand how it works. We have a close relationship with the Bitdefender team altogether and understand at a depth how this is delivered to make it more seamless and integrated for you. You also will see in addition to these checks, there's going to be service checks. The Windows service checks are going to be 5 service checks. You're going to have the endpoint agent, host, integration, master, and update. Each of those have a unique function in keeping that running optimally in the system. The Antivirus App will appear when you have Managed Antivirus turned on. This gives you the ability to go in and see how your scans are running on the system. You can go in and also, if there's anything in quarantine, you can act on quarantined items. So with just a simple click, you'd be able to select the item and remove it from quarantine, empty it. You can even, if there's a threat, make a quick exclusion to policy relevant to that given threat type. Maybe that's a known application and you don't want to jump over to the settings policy. You can quickly do it from here. Now, if you want to get into reporting, this is something that also adds more in value behind the delivery. You have that visibility again, so keep that in mind. That's another added benefit behind a standalone product. The visibility in here allows you to go across and look at an entire network. How many threats were encountered for a given client structure for the given month? Maybe you want to see it over a longer period of time, maybe the past couple months. See how everything's going, bring it in for a quarterly review. What you can do is you can generate these reports. You can do an export, print these out. You can have something to show how these machines have been infected, how it's been, well, I shouldn't say infected because it hadn't been infected. Without a solution, it would have been. But the potential point of compromise, you can see that information, show how that was protected against with this given delivery. So you can provide these reports, have them snapshotted down to an archive folder perhaps, and then you have that to have that quarterly analysis with your customer, and you're already providing these other client reports, your monitoring report showing the general health of the delivery, your executive report showing the health of the delivery. And all of that together just makes the Managed Antivirus, the Bitdefender solution, that much more attractive. We do often recommend layering the solution, as David was mentioning. So using patching out of our solution, using it effectively, having good install techniques and routines, having your scans running as it would be appropriate for the given environments and the known kind of infections out there in the web these days, and communicating to the end users, why it's important to run these scans, why it's important to have the antivirus layer, and then also the web protection, which is another proactive delivery that can sit as a proactive means ahead of the managed antivirus, allowing to take some of that strain or burden off the antivirus. So we recommend those solutions. However, just using the managed antivirus would be a step up from if you're using a standalone product line where you're having to, again, train your other techs individually for each product. That's overhead that you can't charge for. So with that, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and turn that back over to David, and we'll take any questions, see how we can make sure that you're best understanding this solution.
Awesome. Thanks, Ernest. Always, even when for myself, I'm always learning something new, it seems, whenever there's whenever I see Ernest presenting this material. So let's go ahead and take a look and see if we have any questions in our dashboard here. Let's give me a moment to bring that up. I'll just take a second here. Okay, we have one question here from Raphael, and he is basically asking. He came in a little bit late, so he's asking about old Viper policies. Are you able to? What happens if you've already configured? I guess I'm kind of interpreting his question here. If you've already had a configuration with your Viper policies, do you have to start again from scratch, or is there something that you can do with those old policies for changing over to the Bitdefender engine?
It's a great question. So with that, it's very simple. Back in the dashboard, what you can do is you can, and I'll actually bring my dashboard back up just to show you what that would look like. But within the dashboard, you can quickly do a migrate of the policy. So if you go under your settings, go under Manage Antivirus, go under the protection policy. If you're taking the Viper policy here, which will be indicated with this icon, all you need to do is click Migrate. What that does is create the snapshot of everything that's set in the policy that was capable with the Viper delivery, and it brings it into here. So it covers your scan intervals and all of the basic variables. Then you can come in and quickly fine-tune with any new adjustments that are available, such as the text-based branding or the low priority options for the scanning, and just quickly save, and you're ready to go. From there, all you need to do is turn the setting node to the Bitdefender engine, and you're in migration. I recommend doing the migration at a site level just so you have your checks and balances, have that visibility, but it is a very straightforward process. If you have any questions, you can always link up with your sales executive, and we can get a one-on-one or one-to-many engagement and a tech walk just to make sure that we're speaking exactly to your policies if it helps you to feel more comfortable.
Excellent. Thank you, Ernest. All right, let me see if we have any other questions here. I have another question from Mark. He's asking if you could explain a little bit more the role of the site concentrator in regard to the antivirus. Is it something like a managed server, or is it something a little simpler than that?
Another great question. So the site concentrator, and I'll go ahead and I'll jump back into the dashboard, that can be enabled at the site level. And what you'll find is that what will populate in the drop-down list are your server agents. Now, with the server agent, that just means it's a Mac or remote management server agent, not necessarily a server operating system. So you do have the ability to choose a device to serve as a site concentrator by doing the interactive install of the agent, and it will populate in this drop-down. I'll show you real fast how to do that, and then we'll come back. Here under the download agent, use the interactive install, and that's where you can designate a workstation operating system to be a server agent, and then from there you can designate the site concentrator by double-clicking the site and choosing it in the drop-down. This is in role just providing the ability to serve out the updates over the network, kind of like a proxy if you would, and it is just designated to behave upstream of the other systems. What will happen is when you turn this on for a given network, you click OK, save that down. It will on the fly update the agents to use that, and then you have in your device inventory report, it'll show the site concentrator. So that is just a gateway appliance, just allows for all the devices to retrieve through that one upstream system. And at times I may get asked, what kind of resources is that going to use? Well, it's very lightweight. Think of it as just another agent. But there are some storage factors to consider depending on the kind of network that you're managing. If you have a lot of disalike systems in the environment, the storage could be a little bit greater than if you have more alike systems. And what you'll see is if you have a lot of alike systems, it's not going to grow any different than a regular agent and directory anyways. And the reason being is because we have an automatic cache clearing that happens every 30 days. So when these agents next communicate into the dashboard, it's going to populate this site concentrator field under the device inventory report, and that allows it to understand that it's using that site concentrator. So it is near immediate in how quickly that takes place. You don't have to go out to every workstation and make any changes there.
Excellent, thank you. And we're getting ready to wrap up. I wanted to take one more question from Alan asking, can you temporarily disable the antivirus? I'm imagining when something like installing software or something like that.
And again, another added highlight to using the Managed Antivirus Bitdefender over the Managed Antivirus Viper. With the right click of a button, you can come in under Managed Antivirus. You'll see an option to not only manage your scans if they're running, but you're going to see the ability to snooze your antivirus. This gives you the ability to, for up to 60 minutes, have your active protection disengaged. So if you're performing technical duties on the machine and you know that your tool or you're fearing your tool may conflict, you don't have that interfering. So you can, with a quick click, do it now versus assigning a different policy.
Excellent. Thank you, Ernest. All right. Well, that about wraps it up for today. I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. Get back to your to shopping if you haven't finished that already, and that we really do wish you a great holiday season. We hope to hear from you all. If you want to get deeper into this, or you want to get looking into your own policies and get some one-on-one time with us, as always, please feel free to contact your sales executive and set up a tech walk. We'd love to talk with you and explore the different options, making sure that you are very confident in your solution, how to implement it, and how to work with it. So again, I want to thank you and have a great afternoon.